there, Wallalo Warriors, and welcome to another Zero to Hero guide. This time we'll be taking a look at macromanagement, the forward-thinking older cousin of micromanagement. Micro and macro are important aspects of many strategy games, and Age of Empires 2 is no different. Macro refers to larger overall steps that you make within a game, and I think it's much more obscure and a harder thing to define than micro. However, macro, when used in Age of Empires, is mostly about forward-thinking, modular gameplay and strategical planning. I don't think that macromanagement can be learned in the same way that micro can. It's something that is gained over time and comes hand in hand with game knowledge and the speed at which you can physically play the game. A new player to the game will likely be spending their time thinking about what hotkeys correspond to the building they're trying to make, or even thinking carefully about where they need to send their next villager. The new player is really focused on the mechanics of the game, and this means that they have little time for anything else, let alone macro. A top player will be so familiar with the game mechanics that it's second nature to them, leaving them more time to actually get the bigger picture about the game that they're playing, and then plan and adapt their strategy to counter their opponent. If you're the newer player, then you should really learn your hotkeys, your build orders, and become really confident in your ability to actually play, before considering macromanagement as an important facet to your games. If you're more familiar with the game, then there are things that you can do and steps that you can take to improve your macro, and that's what we'll look at next. There are two main types of gameplay, reactive and active. Reactive gameplay is where you are constantly countering your opponent and reacting to how they are playing. For instance, when they wall up very quickly and you have to cancel your feudal rush in order to fast castle instead. Or when an unexpected landing comes in and it forces you to divert your resources from where you were intending to where they are needed now. The other player in these situations is the active player. They have you playing their game and they are calling the shots, and this is a huge advantage to them. The active player has much more time to think about what they want to do next, while the reactive player is so focused on how to deal with the immediate threat that they no longer think ahead or past what they have to deal with immediately. Your aim should be to be the active player, but how do you achieve that? The active player is usually the faster player, but also the player with the bigger picture of the game. This is why scouting and map information is so extremely important. It allows you to more accurately predict what your opponent is going to do, and gives you the edge in catching them off guard. Of course, there will be times when assumption is needed. If your opponent is fully walled, then you may assume that they are fast castling, but you will never know what is truly going on behind those walls. Or if your opponent is making very few galleys in a water wall, you might assume that a landing is incoming. These assumptions will get more accurate the more you play, and it can't be particularly learned. If you're serious about improving, then you should watch your recorded games back wherever you lose, and see who is truly in control of the game. You'll probably find your mistakes quite quickly. One thing that can really help you though is modular gameplay. It's a difficult thing to explain well, but I'll do my best. Modular gameplay is where you treat each production line as a single module. For example, archer production. This requires the input of wood and gold, and the output is archers. This is one production line. For one archery range, you can continually produce archers with 3.5, always round up to 4, villagers gathering gold, and 2 villagers gathering wood. This is a constant value, and knowing that for one archery range means that you can expand it to as many archery ranges as you need, and you can do that on the fly. So, for 2 ranges, you want 7 villagers on gold and 4 on wood. And for 3 archery ranges, you want 12 villagers on gold and 6 on wood. But what is the benefit to this? Well, it broadens your thinking of the game. You decide that you want to run 2 archery ranges, and then you know exactly what you need to do, and you can prepare your economy in advance so that when you get those 2 ranges, you can run them easily. You can also very easily and quickly see what surplus resources you have, and then you can direct them into another production line. Let's have a look at another example in a little bit more depth. We've just researched the castle age and we want to produce archers from 3 archery ranges and also continually produce villagers from 3 town centres. There are 2 production lines here, archers and villagers. We already know that we need 12 villagers on gold and 6 on wood to produce the archers, but what about the villagers from the town centres? Well, each town centre requires 6 farms for constant villager production, and each wood gatherer can provide enough wood to sustain 3 farms each. As you can see, it takes a few moments to get things rolling, but once it's going, this economy perfectly sustains what it's designed to do. It's a little fine on the gold income, but as a whole, the buildings are always queued. A surplus of wood builds up, and once the farms are expired, they can be rebuilt again. Applying this kind of modular gameplay takes a lot of knowledge about the production chains in the game, but you can find a really useful chart in the description to this video where all different gather times and build rates of units are written down, and then you can work out what each production line needs to sustain itself. Of course, once you start getting economy upgrades too, your entire economy will become much more efficient. This kind of gameplay will really take you a huge step above. It allows you to design your economy about your needs at the time and not vice versa, and it gives you more time to focus on the bigger picture that the game presents. This video may not have been what you expected for a video about macro management, but for me, macro is much more than tasking all of your buildings to one place and spamming units. It's about the way we think about the game and the decisions that we make. So hopefully this has been useful to you and you can take a little bit perhaps of philosophy away from this. There's not so much a direct tutorial here, but hopefully you kind of think a little bit more about the way that you think about the game and the way that you play the game. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. As usual, I've been Zach and I will see you next time.